Okay, welcome back. Today we continue Sefer HaMitzvot or Ta'ameh HaMitzvot. And last week we discussed the mitzvot of the Shemitah in Yovel. Basically, we went over the financial system of the Torah. All right, and we understood the mitzvot of Yibum and Harisa and the mitzvot of inheritance and the halot, all from that perspective of the Shemitah in Yovel and how the land is divided. All that falls under what we call the Keter Malchut. Right? It says Shelosha Ketarim Hem. There's three crowns. One of them is Keter Torah, and there's the Keter Malchut, right? Because it's the financial system, and the king has administration over the finances and raising tax and things like that. Even though, with regards to Shemitah and Yovel, he can't touch other people's properties, right? Today, we're gonna be studying a different Keter, the Keter Kehuna. This week and the next class as well will probably also be still under the Keter Kehuna. All right, so המצוות שהקבוצה העשירית כוללת. So now we're on the 10th category of mitzvot. Shalom aleichem, baruch haba. The 10th category of mitzvot הן אלה שמנינו בהלכות בית הבחירה, הלכות כלי המקדש. Beit HaBechira means the Mikdash itself, the chosen house, Beit HaBechira, Hilchot Kelei HaMikdash, the vessels of the Mikdash, v'ha'ovdim bo, and those who work in the Mikdash, v'ilchot bi'at HaMikdash, and the laws regarding coming to the Mikdash. וכבר הודענו את תועלת הקבוצה הזאת באופן כללי. And we've already spoken about the rationale of these mitzvot generally, but now we're going to go a little bit more deeper into this. ידוע שעובדי עבודה זרה היו מכוונים לבנות את מקדשיהם ולהקים את פסיליהם במקומות הגבוהים ביותר שהם מצאו שם. It says the pagans would always look to build their temples and to build their statues on the highest mountains in the area. Al Harim Haramim. ולכן הבדין אברהם אבינו את הר מוריה. And that's why Abraham, when he's looking for a place to worship, he found Mount Moriah, because that is the highest mountain in the Jerusalem area. משום שהוא ההר הגבוה ביותר שם, והודיע שם ברבים את ייחוד השם. However, over there, he got a har Moriah in order to instruct people in the oneness of God. So people are going to look for the highest mountain to go and worship their pagan gods. And Har Moriah is the highest mountain, and they'll climb up to Har Moriah, and Abraham will be sitting there with his tent saying, what are you talking about? There's only one God, and start teaching them monotheism. והוא ייחד את כיוון התפילה. And he also set the direction of prayer. וקבע אותו במערב, בדיוק. And it says, we are going to pray westward. Why westward?
Well, because it was the direction of Jerusalem? No, because...
He's on Har Moriah.
Okay, but I don't know where, I was looking where it's located precisely, because I don't know that yet.
The Temple Mount, where Temple Mount is today.
Okay,
That's Har Moriah.
Okay, so,
Back then there was no Temple Mount. He set up his tent over there. Okay, but he says we're going to pray westward.
It was on the east side, maybe. So he had to
Okay.
make himself to.
is there where the sunset
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the sunset happens. So he's praying towards the sun. So
It's like probably...
you're onto the right direction. Huh?
Don't skip.
You're right. It sounds like Avodah Zarah. You're right. It has to do with the sun It's the opposite though. Kodesh Kodashim b'ma'arav, right? The Holy of Holies is in the west. Why? V'zun mishma'ut divrehem shekhinah b'ma'arav. And when the Hachamim say that the Shekhinah is in the west, it means that the Kodesh Kodashim is in the west, meaning you have the whole temple from east to west, right? You enter the temple from the east side, and as you progress to the western side of the temple, that's where you get closer and closer to Kodesh Kodashim. So when you're at the temple, you're praying westward towards the Kodesh Kodashim.
Okay.
והם ז"ל ביארו בגמרא יומא, and in Masechet Yomah, the Chachamim say שאברהם אבינו קבע את כיוון התפילה, that he set the direction of prayer towards Kodesh HaKodashim. הטעם לכך לדעתי, in my opinion, this is because שהדעה המפורסמת בעולם אז הייתה עבודת השמש. The most popular worship at the time was worship of the sun, right? Vishehu Eloha, and the sun is the God. So, אין ספק שכל בני האדם היו פונים למזרח. And so everybody would be praying towards the east. Which tefillah did Abraham set? Shaharit. Shaharit, where's the sun? East. And what is Abraham doing?
Going to
West. He's turning his back to the sun. Right? The God that everyone is worshiping. Think about it. People are coming. They're looking for the highest mountain to go and worship a pagan God. They climb up to Mount Moriah. Abraham is there with his tent. All right, they see the sun, right? It's nice early in the morning. They see the sun, and Abraham Avinu is praying in the other direction. He's like doing everything backwards. ולכן פנה אברהם אבינו למערב בהר המוריה. So that's why he turned west on Mount Moriah. כלומר במקדש, כדי להפנות עורף לשמש, in order to turn his back to the sun. כמו כן אין ספק לדעתי שאותו מקום שהבדיל אברהם בהתגלות היה ידוע למשה רבנו ולרבים. And that place which Abraham chose as the place of worship was known to Moshe, was known to many others. We'll see we have Masoret, that there were many things that happened over there. Adam Harishon was created there. Cain and Hevel brought their sacrifices there. Akedat Yitzchak happened over there. It all happened over there. כי אברהם ציווה עליהם שיהיה זה בית עבודת השם. Because Abraham instructed his sons and his descendants that this should be the place of worship of God. So that's regarding the place of the Mikdash. And now there's the vessels of the Mikdash. What do they come? What's the significance of the vessels of the Mikdash? So let's start with the Aron. ידוע שהאנשים הללו היו בונים מקדשים לכוכבים, right? So these people, the pagans, they would build temples to the stars, the celestial bodies.
The Tower of Babel was about it, right? Well, it was about the stars.
It doesn't say there specifically about the stars, but it says there as a way to rebel against God. Do you remember something specifically about the stars?
I remember maybe it was some midrash or something like that, describing the Tower of Babel as having stars depicted on it.
Could be. I don't remember that.
It's not from the Torah,
But it definitely fits in,
Yeah.
Akum. What's Akum?
Something like
Oved Kochavim Mazalot. By the way, Akum is a wrong term,
Okay.
right? What is Akum?
Whom is used to say in a Gentile, right?
Right, why?
The Gemara, because it's a.
The Gemara never says Akum. The Rambam never says Akum.
Of course, it's a censor.
It's a censorship.
Yeah. They did it not.
Akum comes every place which says Guim. It was censored by the church or of the Avodah Zarah, pagan worshippers. Why? Because the church didn't want us to include Christians as pagan worshippers or Goyim. So they changed it to worshippers of the stars because they don't worship stars.
This happened because we printed the Talmud in Venezia, in Italy. Bomber, the first printer of
Next
the
to
Talmud,
the-
yeah. And actually was a convert to Christianity, a Jewish guy who converted to
Yes,
Christianity.
yes.
All right, let's get back.
Yeah.
ובאותו מקדש היו שמים את הפסל שהסכימו לעובדו, right? So they would make a temple, and the heart of the temple would have the statue that they are worshiping. על כן הצטווינו אנחנו לבנות מקדש לו, so we construct a temple to God, לא יתעלה, ולהניח בו את הארון, and to place the ark of the covenant in it, בו שני לוחות הכוללים אנוכי אדוני אלוהיך לא יהיה לך אלוהים אחרים. Right, so at the heart of our temple we have the ark of the covenant, with it the tablets that say I am your God and there are no other gods, or there are no gods other than me. ידוע שהיסוד של האמנה בנבואה קודם להאמנה בתורה. אם אין נביא, אין תורה. It says, what's the significance of having the Aron, or receiving this, these 10 commandments, these tablets, is we're verifying or proving to everyone that there is this thing called revelation. Right? This is what we received at the revelation at Sinai. It says if there's no revelation, there's no Torah. So we have a temple on the highest mountain. Over there, there's no statue. There's an ark with the tablets of the covenant that say that there is no God other than God. Right? Proof of our revelation from God, which is the source of the Torah's authority through revelation that we received from Moshe. If there's no prophet, there's no Torah. There's no one to relay the Torah to us. And revelation comes to the prophet through the medium of a malach. Like a messenger, a malach, what in English they call an angel, right? I don't like that word angel. A malach. All prophets receive their prophecy through a malach. Vayikra malach Hashem, right? And the angel of God or the messenger of God called out, Vayomer laha malach Hashem, right? And the messenger of God said to her, Ve'ele rabbi misfor, and there's an infinite number of these. I can't even number them here. ואפילו בתחילת נבואתו של משה רבנו הייתה על ידי מלאך. We say Moshe Rabbeinu didn't receive prophecy from a malach, but that was later in his career. His first revelations was through a malach. וירא מלאך השם אליו בלבת אש מתוך הסנה, at the burning bush. Right, it says that God revealed himself to Moshe in the midst of a fire in the bush. Meaning that was the malach, that was the vision that he saw. התברר אם כן שהאמנה במציאות המלאכים קודמת לאמנה בנבואה. So therefore, in order to believe in prophecy and revelation, you need to first substantiate that belief in the existence of malachim. והאמנה בנבואה קודמת לאמנה בתורה. And believing in prophecy and revelation comes before believing in the Torah itself, which is a product of revelation, which is a product of talking to malachim.
But
Yeah.
it's fine, for example, to think that it's not going to happen like in my life,
But
for example, right?
what that you will personally receive.
No, no,
Why not?
someone else. No.
So what's the
Someone
question?
else, like for example, I love I really I mean I very much enjoy kind of a little bit of being in Torah. You know?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So I really enjoy all of this, but I wouldn't like to live in a period where miracles. I can hold it.
We're not talking about miracles.
No,
We're talking about revelation. not meaning you receive a certain level of understanding where you're communicating with the malachim.
Or to be around someone like, just imagine it must be terrifying, yeah, right? Like,
It is terrifying.
Actually, if we go through the stories of the Nevi'im, they were always in bad situations.
That's horrible.
It's a rough career. It's a rough career to be a Navi.
You see all these Christians, no, I want to be a prophet. Did you read them? You didn't read, right?
Yeah, they get well.
Okay, let's go. Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds terrifying, but really terrifying. It sounds like something not from
It's traumatic.
traumatic. That's it.
Yes.
Hey, can we say based on this, can we say that all the communications that Abraham had were through angels?
Mhm.
Not directly with God.
Absolutely.
Always.
The only one who wasn't through angel was Moshe later in his career, not at the beginning. Every other nivuah, you can assume, even if it doesn't explicitly say so, you can assume it came through a malach. Even like with Avraham Avinu, what's the famous one, right? It says Vayira, Parashat Vayira Hashem in Avraham, Be'olanem Mamre, right? God reveals himself to Abraham, and he's in Elonem Mamre, sitting at the entrance of his tent, right, at the heat of day. What does the next pasuk say? Vayar, Vaisa'ina Vayar, right? And his eyes viewed, had a vision, and he saw. V'ineh shelosha anashim nistavim alav. Three malachim, it says three people came and stood before him. These are malachim. This is the vision, by the way. It's not he was sitting at the entrance of his tent and three people came. This was all a prophetic vision.
So even Lech Lecha was through an angel.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe Adam Achishon, he was maybe like Moshe Rabbeinu, right?
Even that's a good question. You have to figure out how to analyze that story of Adam Harishon. ומאחר שהתבררה האמת למלומדים, once the scholars understood the truth that there's only one God, right? ונודע בהוכחה שיש מצוי שאינו גוף ולא כוח בגוף, and that there is a being that is not physical, has no physical form, and his power isn't limited by physical power. שהוא האלוה האמיתי, and this is the real sovereign of the world, והוא אחד, and that he is one, ושיש גם מצויים אחרים, and that there are also other beings that are devoid of form, שאינם גופים, and have no physical form, והם אשר מציאותו יתעלה שפעה עליהם, and these are beings that this primary being, we said, remember what shefa is? Right, so his abundance overflowed to them until they overflowed onwards, eventually arriving to us. And these are the angels, as we already explained in Hilchot Yesodei Torah, the second chapter. Remember, that's from the previous course that we did. And all of these beings are external to the spheres and the planets, meaning the spheres and the planets, they're not worthy of worship. You don't build statues to them, right? This communication that we receive comes from something even beyond them, beyond the physical universe. Noda b'vadaut, so we know surely she'otam malachim הם אשר משרים באמת התגלות על הנביאים. These malachim are the ones who prophesize, who their shefa then spills over to the prophets, and not what the pagans believe, that the stars prophesize trees and stones. הרי התברר מתוך מה שהקדמנו, שהאמנה במציאות המלאכים באה בעקבות האמנה במציאות האלוה. So from here we see that the belief in the existence of malachim comes as a consequence, as a result of the belief in the existence of God. So God exists, he's overflowing his, call it his goodness, right, his shefa, through the malachim. And if it reaches us, it means that it went through the malachim. So this thing in between God and us are the malachim. So if God exists and we exist, the malachim exist. ושבזאת מתאוששת הנבואה והתורה. And with this understanding, we could understand revelation coming from the malachim. So there's God, then there's the malachim, then there's revelation, and then there's Torah. The Torah, the product of that revelation. ולחיזוק האמנה ביסוד זה ציווה יתעלה שיעשו על הארון צורת שני מלאכים. And in order to emphasize this belief, we were commanded that on this ark containing the covenant there be two malachim. Why two malachim? Any ideas?
There are several.
Huh?
Several here, right?
Well, why two malachim on the ark?
Well, Keruvim.
Huh?
Keruvim.
Yeah, but why not just a keruv? Why two keruvim?
To make the distinct. There are very a lot of explanations, right? That are,
Give me yours. I want your
no,
explanation.
not mine, but for example, one is like you have Abodazar right there.
Yeah.
It's right there, like to try you or to put you in proof at all time.
Okay, but the Rambam here is saying that the whole point of this is to steer you away from Avodah Zarah.
Exactly.
Then why put two keruvim?
That's the reason.
Because they need, like, how do you say that? They lean towards the Ark of Covenant, what is inside, like saying that is the real God. Like creatures that could resemble pagan worship
Okay,
are
that's a nice idea.
indicating that
10
is-
points, Sadio, 10 points.
Yeah.
Any other ideas?
No,
יש דבר מציאות המלאכים בנת ההמון שהיא דעה נכונה. Alright, שנייה לאמנה במציאות האלוה, ויסוד הנבואה שוללת עבודה זרה. ואילו הייתה סורה אחת, if there was only one, כלומר צורת קירוב אחד, only one cherub, not the two קירובים, הייתה בכך הטעיה. This can cause misunderstanding, misdirection. והיו חושבים שהוא צורת האלוה הנאבד, כמו שהיו עושים עובדי עבודה זרה. People would then mistakenly think that this is the image of God.
yeah.
וגם שהמלאך הוא פרט אחד, and is one individual. ודבר זה מוביל לשניות. וכיוון שנעשו שני קירובים, and because there are two קירובים, יחד עם האמירה המפורשת, that along together with our daily statement, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, that there is one God, then we know for sure that these Keruvim do not represent God. There is one God, and in the ark, on the ark, there's two Keruvim. So it can't be God. If there was one Keruv, you may say, okay, there is one God, and this is what he looks like. But we say, no, there's two Keruvim, that's definitely not God.
Do you think that it's like, for example, there are several representations of like of these Keruvim? It's the third. I love that one from the Temple Institute. They have this one with the because that's very Middle Eastern type of malach representation, like the animal with the human face.
Yeah, with
like
the
Babylonian Syrian style, you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Middle East.
I don't know. We'll find the Ark of the Covenant and we'll know for sure.
Because, for example, that human thing with wings, I don't
Yeah.
like it.
Okay.
It feels weird, right?
We'll have to ask Bezalel how he designed it.
But what do you think?
I have no idea.
We don't have anything about it on the
I'm like, you have to see.
descriptions or on
Once we find it, we'll know.
the,
Once we find the Ark, we'll know for sure. התבססה דעה על קיום המלאכים שהם רבים, right? So once we see that there's two cherubs, right, we can substantiate that knowledge that there are malachim, there could be multiple malachim, and those malachim are not God. ונשמענו מן הטעות לגביהם שהם אלוה. And we know that they have no divine power, right? Only God has a divine power. They just relay messages to us mere humans. מאחר שהאלוה אחד והוא ברא את הריבוי הזה. Because God is one and he created these many angels. And now we go on to the other kelim. Kelah Mikdash, ken utzva mulo menorah, right? So we need to also have a menorah in the Mikdash. Kedei leromem ulchabed et habayit. This is in order to glorify the house, the home, or the Beit HaMikdash. כבית שדולגים בו נרות תמיד, הוא מוסר ועושה רושם גדול על הנפשות. Right? Because you have a lit house, it's not a dark house. A lit house has a lot of honor to it. וצרח במזבח הקטורת ובמזבח העולה וכליהם ברור. And besides that, we also have the mizbeach. We have two mizbachot. We have one for incense and one for sacrificing the animals. Ashel shulchan v'liot alechem alav tamid says, however, regarding the shulchan, where they always have baked bread on it, says, Eni yodea ma'atam lezeh. Says, I don't know exactly what's the use of that. V'lo matzati ad hayom lema uchal leyaches oto. The Rambam says, I myself have no answer. Any of you have any suggested answers? B'chabod. He's leaving it open for us to try. When I was learning a long time ago, like 20 years ago, I was learning real estate. One of the things that they told us that we should do when we want to show a house, if it's like an open house, is take some bread, put it in the oven so that there's a smell, like it gives like a homey smell to the place. Yeah, so you have like a smell of fresh bread in the house when you're showing it to clients, so that they subconsciously associate this home as home and want to buy it. So here's an idea.
That's a good one.
You like it?
I do. Yes, I'm in real
you in
estate
real
and I
estate?
appreciate that. Yes, I am. Great.
There you go. You got a tip.
Thank you.
I'll send you an invoice later.
Okay.
Someone had a
Do you
question?
accept pesos?
Pesos? It's better than dollars. Someone want to, is a question here? Someone raising their hand? No, okay. ידוע לך כמה מפורסמות הייתה עבודת פאור באותם זמנים. We know back then how prevalent, right, how was the worship of פאור. ושהוא הייתה על ידי גילוי הערווה. And part of that worship was nakedness and sexual relations. Anybody read the Da Vinci Code?
Yeah, yes, I did.
No, so the Da Vinci Code, that was like his main thing at the end, right? A lot of pagan rituals had to do with, by the way, that's why prostitutes in Hebrew are called Kiddesha, right? Because they were always found in temples. It was part of pagan rituals, was prostitution and sexual activity. That's why, ולכן הסתוו הכהנים לעשות מכנסיים לכסות בשר הערווה. That's why part of the priest's garments, right, besides, they have like a dress that they're wearing, they also wear pants so that there is no possibility of their genitals being viewed, even, look at this, even by the mizbeach itself. Right? בשעת העבודה, שאפילו כך לא יעלו על המזבח במדרגות. And that's why the mizbeach doesn't have stairs going up to it. It has a ramp. Right? So it's to prevent אשר לא תגלה ערוותך עליו, that your ערווה shouldn't be observable. And besides that, השמירה והסיבוב סביב המקדש תמיד היו כדי לרוממו ולכבדו. Besides that, there are guards around the Mikdash. At nighttime, even when the Mikdash is closed, you have guards guarding around the Mikdash. And the halakha says, even in times of peace, even when we have no suspicion of anyone coming to conquer us, there's always guards around the Mikdash. All this is to glorify the Mikdash. Asher leben Levi, and regarding the Levites, she'eno makriv ve'she'en medamim shu mechaper al hataim, which the Levites, they don't bring korbanot, they don't do kapara. However, they are part of the Shmirah of the Mikdash. Right? El hamatara b'levi hi amirat hashir bilvad. What's the point of the Levites? They're the choir. They sing. It's to make it a beautiful place to visit. Unifsal bekol. If he has a bad voice, then he can't participate in the worship in the Mikdash. כי גם בשיר המטרה היא היפעלות נפשית מאותן אמירות. Because the purpose of the song, the singing of the Levites, is to uplift people's spirit. והנפש אינה נפעלת אלא ממנגינות נעימות. Right? And what's uplifting? Right? If you listen to black metal, maybe you enjoy it, but it's not uplifting, right? It's not inspiring that way. But you have nice voices, nice songs, nice imkele negina with a harp and guitar and oud and all those things. כמו שהיה דבר תמיד במקדש. And because in the Mikdash they were always slaughtering and taking, hafshata, taking the, how do you call it, the skin off, skinning the animals and taking out all the internal organs, right? We don't want the Mikdash to have the smell of a slaughterhouse. So what do we have? We have very, very strong incense over there. So despite all the slaughterhouse activity that's going on in the Mikdash, right? You can smell the barbecue and you can smell the, how do you call it? You can smell the incense. It was so strong, the incense, that they said you could smell the incense coming from the Mikdash all the way to Jericho. What's that? And to expel the flies. Yeah, could be. There you go. You should add that into your version of the Moreh. Remember, when it comes to Ta'ameh HaMisvot, both the Rambam and Rabbi Yehuda HaLevi, they're very, very careful not to say this is the reason. What they're saying is, this is how I rationalize it. Right? So if you have other ideas, don't think, because the Rambam said one reason, you can't suggest something else. So yeah, maybe those incense are good for keeping flies away.
Because it's very common in, for example, in my country to use smoke or expel the flies. So it's very useful. So maybe that is one of the reasons, because the meat, wherever you have meat,
yes,
flies comes right away. So.
Right. And when you're dealing with the intestines, it's a fly trap. It attracts tons of flies.
In particular?
You'll see. One day we'll do a shahita.
I thought you said we'll see what.
הכל חוזר ליראת המקדש, שהיא סיבה ליראת השם. All this comes back to the mitzvah of fear/awe of the Mikdash, which is, the purpose of that is yira'ah, and awe of God. כי בפנייה אליו מושגת היפעלות. Right? Because when we turn to the Mikdash, when we go to the Mikdash, that whole experience in the Mikdash is extremely uplifting. והלבבות הקשים מתעדנים ומתרככים, and people with a heavy heart or very strict people, they come, I hear beautiful music, smell beautiful smells, right? Eat an amazing barbecue, all that, right? It softens people's heavy and hard heart. והשם יחכם את כל התחכמות הזאת בעצות מרחוק כדי לעדנם ולהכניעם בעת שיפנו אל הבית הזה. And God designed all this to guide us, right, and to elevate us to a way to bring us before God to worship Him wholeheartedly. So this is the basic rationale of these mitzvot. These mitzvot are in Sefer Avodah, one of the 14 books of the Mishneh Torah. You'll find them, Hilchot Bet HaBechira, right? Hilchot Bet HaBechira, yesh bichlalan 6 mitzvot. It contains 6 mitzvot, 3 mitzvot aseh, 3 mitzvot lo ta'aseh, 1, livnot Mikdash, 2, shelo livnot hamizbeach gazit, shelo la'alot b'ma'alot alav, to not climb on shelo livnot mizbeach gazit is not to carve the stones of the mizbeach. Shelo la'alot b'ma'alot alav, to not climb up to the mizbeach with stairs. Le'ira'a min hamikdash, to fear the mikdash. Lishmor et hamikdash saviv, to guard the mikdash all around. Shelo lahashbit shmirat hamikdash, and to never stop the guarding of the mikdash. These are the 6 mitzvot regarding Ilchot Beit HaBechira. Then we have Ilchot Kelei HaMikdash ve'ovdim bo, Ilchot Biat HaMikdash, Yisurei Mizbeach, right? All in all, in Sefer Avodah, Nimtzu Kol HaMitzvot, the end of the 2nd page, last line, Kol HaMitzvot HaNichlalot BeSefer Zeh 103. 103 mitzvot in total regarding the Mikdash itself. Yes.
What I cannot understand is how is it possible that, I mean, all the idea of the Mikdash was, it was like the machine against the idol worship.
Mm-hmm.
So how could it be that the need of Beit Mikdash, with the main idea was to have it against the idol worshippers. And if they have 40 years in the desert and every day was a miracle, I mean, all this water from the stone, all this manna from the heaven, how come they are worshippers after all these 40 years in the desert? After all this,
That's a very, very good question. I have an entire lecture on that question. I'll answer it in. It is on YouTube. Yeah, it is on YouTube. A few things on that on YouTube. The main idea is paganism isn't just a belief system. It's the way humans are wired, being a product of the animal kingdom. Right? We didn't come out of a vacuum. Right? They're animals, they're apes. We see among the animals, they have all sorts of rituals too that they do, ways to remember their ancestors, the more developed ones. We humans are the most developed out of all the animals. Meaning paganism is very, very deeply rooted in our psyche. And in order to counter paganism, you need to work on it a lot. And the best way to work on it is keeping the Torah in its completeness. Meaning not just keeping Shabbat and Kashrut, but we need the temple, right, in order to really uproot all these pagan ideas that come to us naturally. Otherwise, what happens when we don't have the temple? Where do we go? We go to Uman. We go to all these Kivrei Tzadikim all over. But God commanded us to have one place of worship, so that in this one place we can focus on one God, right, and the Torah that He gave us, and not spread out in all these million other places of worship. Like, I hate it when they say that the Kotel is one of the holiest sites of Judaism, or the Temple Mount is one of the holiest sites of Judaism. It says it's wrong phrasing. There's one holy site in Judaism. There's one holy site. Nothing else is holy. All these Kever Ashbi, Kever Hillel, Kever whatever, Kever Bimeir, right? We love the teachings of all these rabbis, but their graves aren't a place of worship. There's one place of worship, and it's on Har HaBayit. Mitzvat Aseh Kaf. Let's look at the Mitzvah 20. He shesivanu livnot bet bechira la'avodah. It's a mitzvah to construct a home or a temple to worship. Bo yeh hakrava v'havarat ha'esh tamid. Right? And in that place will we bring sacrifices. And we'll always have a fire ongoing. Ve'elav tiyeh halicha ve'aliyah laregel. And to that place we will ascend. Or the, how do you call it? What's it called? When the pilgrimage will be only to that place. V'kibutz b'chol shana, and the gathering every year will be to that place. V'omro yit'aleh ve'asuli mikdash, and this is explicit in the pasuk. Ve'asuli mikdash, and you shall construct for me a mikdash. Ulunshon sifre, and in the sifre, one of the old Tanaic literature, it says Shalosh mitzvot nitztavu Israel b'shat knisatan la'aretz. When the Jewish people entered the land, they were commanded 3 mitzvot. Limnot lahem melech, 1, to appoint a king. 2, velivnot lahem bet bechira, to construct a temple. And 3, lachrit zar'o shel Amalek, to eradicate Amalek. So here we see the Chachamim explicitly say that building the temple is a mitzvah on its own. One of the 613 mitzvot. Remember, that's the whole point of Sefer HaMitzvot, is how does Maimonides justify each mitzvah that it's actually one of the 613 mitzvot. And we've already explained that the general rule that a mitzvah could include many, many things in it. Shehem ha-menorah, va-shulchan, va-mizbeach, right? Meaning the construction of the menorah, the construction of the mizbeach, and all the vessels of the Mikdash. These are all details of the mitzvah of building a Mikdash. And all this is called a Mikdash. Meaning we don't have a mitzvah to construct a menorah and a second mitzvah to construct a mizbeach and a third mitzvah to construct the shulchan for the lechem. We have a mitzvah to build a Mikdash, and this mitzvah includes building a mizbeach, building the menorah. All this is part of the mitzvah of the Mikdash. Okay, let's skip a bit because 21, Mitzvat Aseh 21, Hu shesivanu lira min hamikdash. Right, this is the mitzvah that we have to fear or to be in awe of the Mikdash. Me'od, very much so. Ad shenasim ben nafshenu masah hapachad va'ira'ah. V'zeh mi'ira'at hamikdash. So that we have this fear and awe instilled in our nefesh, in our souls, of the Mikdash. Et mikdashi tirau. This comes from the pasuk. You shall fear my Mikdash. V'geder zeh ha'ira'ah k'mo shezacharnu b'sifra. And this is also from the Tanaic literature of the Sifra. We see Ezehu Mora. What is fear of the Mikdash? Lo yikanes lahar habayit b'maklo u'b'min'alo u'v'afundato. One should not enter the Temple Mount with his walking stick or with his pouch. His pouch being, his wallet of business where he carries all his money. Meaning you're not meant to meet a friend for business meeting on the Temple Mount, right? when you go to the Temple Mount, it's for going to the Mikdash. That's the point. Right? And we also say you can't go in, right? You can't use it as a shortcut coming from the east because it's a quicker way to get from the east to the west side of the city. Says no, right? It's not a place of business. It's not a place, where you go dirty. You have to dress nicely, right? And that's how you instill Morah of the Mikdash. Same way when you go to a wedding, you dress up nicely. You go to shul, you dress up nicely. That's so much more when you go to Har HaBayit. ושם נאמר גם כן, לא מן המקדש אתה ירא, it's not from the temple that you should fear, אלא ממי ששכן שכינתו במקום הזה. The whole point of fear of the temple is not fear of the temple itself, but fear of the one dwelling in the temple. Right? Who is the one dwelling in the temple? The Shekhinah. What is this Shekhinah? Let's look at the Pesukim here. We're jumping to the last page, last paragraph over there, Shemot. וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור. And God spoke to Moshe, דבר אל בני ישראל ויקחוני תרומה. Speak to the people, children of Israel, and they shall take a teruma, a donation for me, מאת כל איש, אשר ידבנו ליבו תיקחו את תרומתי. From anybody who is generous, has a generous heart, you shall take a donation for me. וזאת התרומה שתיקחו מאיתם. And this is the donation that you shall take from them. Zahav v'chesef u'nchoshet, gold, silver, and copper. Utchelet v'argaman. Techelet and argaman are blue and like violet colored linen. V'tola'at shani v'shesh v'izim. And this, goes on. And shemen lama'o, you should also take oil. And we're skipping a bit. And with all these things, v'asuni mikdash v'shachanti betocham. And from all this, you shall construct a mikdash for me, so I can dwell upon them, or among them, betocham. Kechol asher ani mareh otcha, as I am showing you, et tavnit mishkan, the shape of the mishkan, ve'et tavnit kol kelav, and the shape of all the vessels of the mikdash. V'chen ta'asu, and so you should do. Then he goes on, V'asu Aron aseh shitim. By the way, this spreads over from like chapter 25 of Shemot, basically all the way to the end of the book of Shemot, right? He's now detailing how this one mitzvah should be performed, right? V'asu Aron aseh shitim, and you should construct an ark made of I guess I say shitim is what? Cedar wood. Amatayim v'chetzi yorko, v'ama v'chetzi rochbo, ve'ama v'chetzi kumato, right? These are the dimensions. V'sipita oto zahav ta'or, and you shall coat it in gold from inside and out. V'natata il ha'aron, and you shall deposit into this aron, into this ark, et ha'edut asher eten elecha, this testimony which I am giving to you, which is, what is the testimony? The tablets, which I am giving to you, meaning he didn't even receive the tablets yet, right? We just had the revelation in Sinai, and he's going to go up to God to receive the tablets, right? And when he comes down, they're meant to be deposited here in the ark. Which I will give to you. And you shall make the Keruvim, right? And they should be at the two ends of the kaporet. And you should put this kaporet, the cover of the ark with the Keruvim, you put it on top of the ark. Again, and you put this testimony, again, what's this edut? Testimony of what?
The interaction, the contract, instead of signing the contract, There's another.
So what was the whole point of this Mikdash? What does it come to prove? Go back to the beginning of the class. Huh? That revelation exists. The Torah is a product of revelation, which is a product of the existence of Malachim, which is the product of the existence of God. The whole Mikdash is basically meant to be a place that we deposit the Torah in, the ultimate testament of God's revelation to mankind, right? And its all structure there is meant to show us that there is a God to the world, right? And there is a God to the world, and He spoke to us, and He gave us this physical item to testify to His revelation, right? And we built this whole Mikdash to uplift our spirit or break our pride when coming to visit Him, so that we follow the covenant that He revealed to us in Sinai. V'no'ati shama, this is a few chapters later, V'no'ati shama livnei Israel. And this should be a meeting point between me and the children of Israel. V'nikdash b'chvodi. V'kidashti et Ohel Moed v'et ha-mizbeach. I should sanctify the Ohel Moed and the Mizbeach and Aharon and Banav and the Kohanim. V'shachanti betoch b'nei Israel. I shall dwell among the children of Israel. V'aiti lahem Elohim. And I shall be their Elohim. What is Elohim? Judge. I shall be their sovereign. I shall be their sovereign. V'yadeu, and they shall know. Ki ani Adonai Elohim. I am God, their ultimate sovereign. Asher hoseti otam me'eretz Mitzrayim, which I extracted them from Egypt. Here it's l'shacheni betocham, to dwell among them. Ani Adonai Elohim. I am God, their sovereign. What is a heichal? What is a mikdash? The mikdash is think of it as the residence of the sovereign, right? What is a palace? It says the mikdash is our palace, the palace of God. God doesn't physically dwell there. Testimony of His revelation to mankind is deposited over there. Right? Ultimate Jewish sovereignty is only fully expressed when we construct this temple of God. So we have the crown of the king, which is one form of sovereignty, where we're in control of our security. But full sovereignty, Jewish sovereignty, means we have this temple, even without, the avodah of the korbanot, and we'll get into that next week, right? But to have this one place where we all come to meet, and that's where we meet with God, and every 7 years, right, the king reads out the Torah to the people, to the assembly of the people, right? This is the ultimate expression of Jewish sovereignty. And this is what we need to be striving for. There is no full Jewish sovereignty without a Mikdash on the Temple Mount. Any questions?
It also fixes the conditions for a future Messiah. Because if otherwise you ask for Messiah first, the Messiah is going to end up placing all the rules and putting all the rules and everything. It's gonna be horrible.
Who needs to build the Mikdash?
Man.
It says ve'asu li Mikdash. Ve'asu is in plural. It's not a man.
No.
We as a nation. We as a nation.
Yeah. Otherwise, if it's the other way around, it's gonna be horrible.
Do we need to wait for Mikdash to fall down from the skies?
No.
Well, we don't expect God to do the mitzvot for us.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, there's plenty of halachot that I was planning on going into, but our time is up, and I think we got the gist of the idea. Any questions?
The other proof in the ark is the man, no?
Right, there's also the man, and there's
Because
also,
you tell to your son, but I give it to you in the desert.
right, so there's also the man, and there's also the staff of Aaron.
Yeah.
There's also there, yes. That's not in the ark, it's deposited next to it. Inside the ark are the tablets, the two sets of tablets, the broken ones and
Really, the two sets?
yeah, both. The Shivrei Luchot, the broken parts of the tablets,
I have
and
a really good question about Shivrei Luchot. But
which Shivrei Luchot?
Huh?
Chacham Mordechai Shivrei Luchot?
No, no.
Chavod.
Go ahead. You wanna hear the question?
Chavod, yeah.
So why the first time God wrote it and the second time Hashem? Why didn't God write it again?
Well, the truth is, according to the Pasuk, God wrote the second ones.
Oh, okay.
Moshe had to sculpt it. תספסול לך שני לוחות אבנים כראשונים. To sculpt for yourself two tablets similar to the original ones. It says וכתבתי על הלוחות, and I shall write on the לוחות את הדברים אשר היו על הלוחות הראשונים אשר שיברת. But still, it's a good question. Why did Moshe have to sculpt then second tablets?
Because the first pair were, according to Midrash, was supposed to be made of sapphire. So it's like Moshe's not going to find like two huge balls of sapphire, or lapis lazuli, or who knows what it is.
Maybe Mount Sinai was like quarry for
but then he would have done
for
it the
sapphire.
second time. Instead, the second time.
Yeah, but now he just needs to carve out two tablets of sapphire. And
the second time was just stone.
do you have an answer? Or?
No.
You want me to answer?
In the case of the second time was Moshe, I would have thought that because of the Avodah Zarah of Am Yisrael, for instilling way deeper the thought of do not be, how would you say that, like don't be attached to
the
divine
material,
objects.
Yeah.
You know what
You're saying so it doesn't turn into a relic and an object of worship.
Because there is always
that's a very good insight.
Because even though it doesn't become like so, there is always the retro taste of Avodah Zarah. That is not the object itself, but is the state of mind of Am Yisrael.
That's probably also why he broke it, to show that it's not the object that we're worshiping.
But at the same time, you receive also the message of angriness, of being like you did a wrong thing.
That's why we keep both.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I don't want to slide into Chacham Mordechai's time, so we'll stop the recording here.
It's your favorite black metal band.